There's something happening, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing in our lifetimes, now whether this has happened before in the history of man, who knows, probably. Has this happened in the life cycle of our sun and our planet? Likely. Should it be happening to us? Most unlikely. Something's going on, folks, and this is disturbing. And we need to pay attention to what is going on. Our physicist has been thinking about what's going on. And she asked me to put this out here while our good friend and fellow researcher Chris Potter is getting his new channel up there, and I encourage you to go visit it, and I will leave the link. Folks, I happen to agree with this. I tried to be a pragmatist that says, okay, keep your feet on the ground. There's discipline of thought, discipline of implementation, discipline in execution. These disciplines run the same in our sciences. And to those men and women who are gifted in not only having the natural talent and ability for math and the beauty of the language of math, but how it expresses our universe. Our physicist happens to believe that, and I happen to agree, that it's very well possible this brown dwarf is already here. So you've already read this. See how good I am? Hopefully all of you have read this as well. But let's go. I'm going to start here in paragraph 2. And I'm going to read this because I think it's important. Folks, no matter how old you get, you can never stop learning. I'm going to do a video with Steve Olson, and we're going to get into something about our species that I find very troubling. Because what we're seeing here, if it wasn't for what the evidence is showing, all of us would be comprehending this. I dare say all of us would probably have already figured it out and have gone on to interdimensional travel. Let's continue. The image on the right of figure 1 is HI2. I show you these guys all the time. Now listen, the following is a commentary of R. Wayne Steiger and does not reflect the thoughts or the opinions of our physicist, and are in no way to be construed as to be part of the thought process of our physicist. All right, put that out there. Folks, whatever NASA, the rest of them have told us about this here baffle, they're full of crap. And anyone who tries to argue it, you're full of crap. I'm just telling you, you are. Because you don't know. They never gave you the manual, did they? Well, I'm going to take our physicist over anyone that wants to counter this. You see how well this goes? You've already read all that. So in essence, this is the brown dwarf. This is Secchi. This is the baffle. I believe it was put there on purpose. I believe it was put there to obfuscate that portion of the sky. There is absolutely no logic or sense in designing any type of telescope or camera for what we would call the deep planetary field and the inner field, and to have something obfuscating the picture. Let's go on. Now, since the Stereo A spacecraft can keep the brown dwarf within its field of vision all the time, whilst essentially following Earth's orbit, suggests that the brown dwarf is in an orbit around the sun. But finding its orbital radius is not easy. We would need more information than what has been available up to now. However, new information has come to light recently. Notice that the object on the left of figure 1 is seen in the night sky. There is a black background around it. The fact that this object is seen in the night sky means that it is beyond Earth's orbit around the sun. This is illustrated in figure 2. Now here we go. So BD, bad dwarf, is there. You can see the Earth, so get yourself orientated to what we are seeing. Sun, Earth's orbit, brown dwarf, night sky. If the brown dwarf's position was outside and then Earth's orbit, it would be seen here. Get it? All right. Illustration of fact that the brown dwarf has to be outside the Earth's orbit in order to be visible in the night sky from Earth. Now, some additional data has become available regarding a reversal in the direction of the solar wind, also called the magnetopause. We were just looking at it. This reversal happened on the outside of the Earth's orbit around the sun and has happened twice in 2016, both on April 23rd and October 14th. I would like to point out that on the April event, that was a prolonged event. We began, and I have the footage of the event starting about April 6th. And our physicist is absolutely right. BP Earthwatch actually covered this. So this is a fact. It also happened, by the way, on June 22nd, 2015. And I happen to have footage on that one as well. So anyway, let's continue. Figure 3 shows the direction of the solar wind before the reversal occurred on October 14th. The direction of the solar wind is given by the direction of the arrows in this image. And folks, if you're not versed with this yet, there's no reason for you not to be. There are plenty of videos. Steve has done one. BP Earth's done one. I have subscribers that I apologize. I don't remember your name specifically, but they have gotten in detail on this. So you need to understand plasma, folks. This is what we're talking. Earth's orbit. And as everyone knows, those are satellites, and our moon is somewhere in here. All right, let's go on. Figure 3 diagram showing the solar wind velocity defined by the black arrows right here on October 14, 2016 at 1:40 UTC. The little black and white circle represents planet Earth. The sun is to the right of the solar wind. Direction is to the left. In figure 3, the sun is to the right of the image, and the solar wind points to the expected direction, i.e. to the left, as defined by the direction of the black arrows in the image. In figure 4, we see that all the arrows on the right-hand side of the Earth are now pointing to the right. This, folks, I can't tell you. I mean, I have seen such cavalier statements made by other so-called professional observers that simply dismiss this as no big deal. You know what? I'm not that flippant with what I see. And I'm not that knowledgeable. I've never yet a man or woman yet that is that knowledgeable. And if you are so, how should we say, addicted to your science, your theory, your particular view on the way things are, and you discredit everyone else because they may have a counter idea, is intellectual elitism. And cut it out. You are not a god. You're not that smart. And go with the flow with everyone else. Just because you have an idea, that's fine. But man, I tell you, when I hear people make flippant comments on their channel about phenomena like this, it disturbs me because, again, it is intellectual elitism. And by God, we got more than that already, don't we? Let's continue. Again, the following comment was the expressed personal opinion of the presenter, not the material. Diagram 4 shows the solar wind velocity defined by the black arrows on October 14th. The solar wind direction to the right, here we are, and these are waves, folks, plasma. I've heard that this is helium, that our universe is starting to burn that. that this is what we're seeing? Listen, I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable. I feel like I'm on the hamster wheel running as fast as I can, but I'm going to tell you what. You take a break in a day in some of this, and you walk back and you go, really? All right, so showing that if the Earth passed between the sun and another star, this star would have had to been in the Pisces constellation. Now, we just had a discussion the other day with Terrell. There are several ways that this solar wind direction reversal can be interpreted. The first and simplest is to say that the Earth passed between the sun and another star, which would produce its own particle flux, and was therefore able to counteract the sun's particle flux or solar wind. If that is the case, this object would be in the constellation Pisces, as shown in the solar system scope view from October 14th, 2:28 UTC time. Okay. Figure 6 shows the magnetopause reversal of April 23rd, 2016. The reversal is not as dramatic as the one we just experienced, suggesting that if the same object caused both reversal, it must have been further away in April. However, there is actually no way of knowing for sure that it was the same object, but we can consider the possibility, and it is, folks, it's a possibility, that it is the same object and see what conclusions we can arrive. Figure 6 diagram showing the solar wind velocity defined by the black arrows on the 23rd. Some of the arrows to the right of the Earth have reversed in their direction. Okay? See? Figure 7 shows the solar system scope view of the 23rd of April at 5:34 UTC. We see that if the Earth passed between the sun and another star, thus causing a reversal in the solar wind direction, that this star would have to have been in the Virgo constellation. Okay? We cannot be sure that the same object caused both magnetopositive reversals in 2016, but we can consider the idea. If it is the same object, it must be outside Earth's orbit and is therefore unlikely to move fast enough to encounter the Earth on the 23rd of April, and then again on October 14, a time interval of 173 days. But there is the possibility that the object was not on the outside of Earth's orbit both times, but that an alignment between the sun, the Earth, and the star caused the reversal. In that case, the magnetic flux change caused by the Earth alignment with the sun and this star could be enough to cause a reversal in the solar wind direction and on the outside of Earth's orbit. If that is the case, the star would be outside the Earth's orbit for one of the times and on the opposite side of the solar system the other time. Since the effect is stronger on October 14, we are going to assume that it was closest to the Earth at that time and on the other side of the solar system on the 23rd. This is illustrated in Figure 6. So, let's follow the reasoning here. Okay? The 23rd. Earth's over here. You know, from what I've been able to study, and I think about a density of a brown dwarf, that it's basically an iron, rock, big, still has the ability, apparently, to take particles from another active sun and cause kind of a reaction in its furnace, so to speak. But I know that the density of the star would be immense. And this I happen to agree with. I've thought this all along. I'm on the record of saying, in fact, our physicist did a paper on one of my theories, that we would know when the arrival of this system, star, whatever you want to put your title to, we would know it by its magnetic signature. I think it just rung our doorbell. Let's go on. Figure 8. In the case of the same star producing the magnetopause reversal on April 23rd and October 14th, the possible sun, earth, and star's position on both days is illustrated. Now, if the star had not moved at all between the first reversal event on the 2nd in 2016, we would expect the period of time between reversals to be half of the orbital period of the Earth, which is 365 days. So we would expect the period of time between the two reversals to be 182.5 days. But instead, the time period was 173 days. This means that the star moved by an angle equivalent to 9.5 days of the Earth's orbit. In other words, the star angular displacement was, and the calculation is as you can see. So to help you on the math, this is what we have here. G is gravitational constant of the Earth. M is the mass of the sun. This is orbit. This becomes the distance. From the orbital period, we can use Kepler's third law to estimate the star's orbital distance from the sun, where G is the gravitational constant and M is the sun's mass. If this star is the brown dwarf visible in Secchi images, then this orbital distance from the sun would place it between the orbit of Jupiter and Saturn, and closer to the orbit of Jupiter than to Saturn's, since Jupiter's orbital radius is 5 AU and Saturn's is 9 AU. That's the distance, folks, and AU is between here and the sun. I always round it off to 100. I think it's more accurately, I don't know, between 93 and 94 million. Okay. Wow. Lots to think about here, isn't it? So, what we're talking about here, folks, is this. Let's just kind of take this into the view of what our physicist is theorizing here. All right. So, let's just spin this around. Out here, folks. Out here. I happen to agree with the theory that the asteroid belt is nothing more, well, it all depends. If you've read Zachariah Stitchin's book, Talmount, I believe was the name of that planet. We see the remnants of it. And, you know, the solar system's a violent place. You got large objects moving very quickly. So, anyway, here we go. Before I close this out, let's talk about what's happening here, folks. And it's not pretty. I have an article I'm about to show you that there are governments that are now concerned. I have data that will show this is not normal. We're having multiple north-south breaches. I can tell you here in Colorado, it's weird. Early last week, we had what can be considered normal temperatures here, which is this time of year. We should be in the mid-60s for highs and starting now to get into the upper 30s as lows. Wednesday, a strange event started, and it started with a wind. Thursday, things dramatically began to change. And for the last 4 days, there has been a hot wind here in Colorado, a very hot wind. And we're getting unusual high lows. And today, we're supposed to be another 20, 25 degrees above normal. So, yeah, there's something going on here, folks. And when we look up here at the 10 millibar level, we should be seeing not this. Let me get rid of this. And you're going to see what one government has to think. So I had a viewer send this in. I can't read. I think this is Norwegian. I'm not sure. But I did get it translated. Thank you, Google. There is something strange in the atmosphere. And it's the I just had this word. Biennial oscillation has always gone off clockwork. Now, I've been reading about this. It has now stalled. And they're talking about the possibility that something is very, very wrong. And you can see in the 60 years meteorologists have followed the phenomenon, the vortex always deflected by 24 to 28 months. Now QBO is stalled. A year ago was QBO in the western phase, and in February the wind began to deteriorate. We expected that the wind would turn the east in the fall, but instead took westerly wind pickup again, says storm meteorologist, and I am not going to try. Frode, thank you. The affects the weather with us. QBO is the wind that blows far south of us, but is still influences the weather above us. So they're in Norway. Over the poles, the blows, also an altitude winds, and the stratospheric polar vortex. Here is the north blowing always from the west, where the vortex encounters QBO, reinforced or weakened polar vortex, depending on which way it's blowing. Now, look at what they're saying here. A powerful KBO from east could weaken the polar vortex, which in turn weakens the jet stream. It increases the chances of high pressure, massively and cold, dry winters. You see what they're saying? When QBO blowing from the west, as now, if it is the opposite, it may mean that we have a mild winter with more participation than normal in store. So you see, it's affecting everything, folks. It really is. So as I close out with Oliver in the background, I used to see the stars and say hello. Now the stars are saying something else. Be kind to one another. Talk soon.